All right, so this video is another LilliePie video. We watched one of LilliePie's videos last week talking about changes she would make to the game. Some of them we agreed with, thought were pretty cool, but a lot of them were some really awful and very biased takes. So it was kind of interesting to see the mix of just kind of like really grounded and good takes versus like very biased off the wall takes that would very clearly only benefit her main side, which is Survivor. Yes, she was infamously the one that said all of the awful things that happen in the game only happen if you let it. So we should just buff everything to counter slugging, camping, and tunneling, because these things only intrinsically happen if you let them, which is definitely not true at all, and definitely an oversimplification to benefit her perspective. So that was disappointing. So, this video is called Why Do Killers Complain? Also, real quick, here's the link to the video. Please give it a like and subscribe for Lily, because this is not our content. So the best you can do to support the official release of the video is to like and subscribe. That way it is supported either way. So please take a moment to do that. Just, it'll take you like 2-3 seconds. I promise it's not going to be that painful. Always a killer main with survivor bias. I usually don't see the invert of that, which is kind of interesting. I usually don't see survivor mains with killer bias. I always see that. I see that actually pretty frequently. Killer mains with survivor bias. I don't see it the other way around very often. Weird. Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. This is a little bit of a follow-up video from my previous, which I did not expect to be so well received, but I'm super happy I was able to air some of my grievances with the survivor side of DBD and have others relate so well. Now, there were a couple of comments talking about how much of an entitled survivor main I am and how I've never played killer, which isn't really true, so I just laughed it off. But because of how frustrated I've been with survivor, I decided to actually grind killer to Eerie and just see how difficult it really was. Except it really wasn't. I know a lot of people might say, oh, well, you're just slow MMR, but
if you just started grinding killer and you haven't played killer regularly, like, your experience is not going to be the same as somebody who's played the game at that level consistently that like mains the role. You don't have that insight. Even if you decided to just grind to Eerie 1, which doesn't take that long, it's more hours. You don't need skill to really hit Eerie 1. It's just playtime, right? That's why the grades aren't used for matchmaking anymore, because it's really just emblematic of playtime and not exactly skill. Yeah, it's not hard to get Eerie 1 on killers, so that's not a good sample of what the killer role is actually like. So if you're gonna make these big sweeping statements like you're probably about to about like the way killer is because you played till Eerie, that's not a good sampling at all. And the people that tell you that it's not a good sampling are correct.
the majority
Yeah,
of
you don't even DPIP anymore. Like, you don't even DPIP anymore. So it's impossible that if you like suck, that you will only ever be stuck in one grade until you just like get out of your slump. And you know, it's very easy. A little bit of experience versus playing consistent, being good, and dealing with different people and playstyles. Yep, exactly. This is yeah. I always find she is always very interesting as a content creator, because I watch her here and there, and she will have like really good takes, and then just the next thing she says will be the most off the wall, survivor biased, or anti-killer thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's just really interesting how like I don't know how these thoughts occupy the same brain. You know, it's very interesting.
I was getting 2 to 4K, which increases MMR, and even then, I don't think MMR is that much of a factor anymore. My matches were all over the place. I had some players that were at a couple hundred hours, some with thousands of hours. I had over prestige 50 players running into walls. I had some really good coordinated players. I had groups with Sabo breakout or flashlights. I had people that pre-dropped every pallet. So,
yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
It doesn't take that long to
get.
It
seems like after a certain amount of matches, players just get pulled together anyways.
Well, that's because if you don't play this role consistently, your MMR is going to be all over the place. That this is true. This is how it should be, because if just the way MMR works is if the game doesn't have a good bead of like what kind of if the MMR does not have a good bead of like where you should be, it is going to give you a large pool of players. So that's not saying skill-based matchmaking doesn't work. There's definitely times it doesn't work. Don't get me wrong. But to say MMR intrinsically doesn't work because of your experience, no, that's what should be happening. So, yeah. Hey, Multi, how's it going? We're just doing some React Andy content to DBD stuff.
All the comments that I saw complaining were just genuinely skill issues on their part. And with that being said, I compiled a good portion of comments that express some of the common killer struggles, and how I deal with some of them, and what I've noticed about most killers overall. So here we go. Number 1, camping and tunneling are just legitimate strats. Oftentimes, I hear people say, okay, well, this is just the easiest way to play. And yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
But do you ever even try in the beginning? A lot of killers don't try to play to get better. They play for comfort and practically a no resistance win. And then they lock themselves into camping and tunneling instead of actually learning. I think it's a normal mentality to want to win. I mean, it's only natural.
Yeah.
But I don't understand how you actually think you're going to get better at any killer if you play them all the exact same way, despite them having unique powers. Again, you could play for comfort, but it's better to have the skill to back it up in situations where it just doesn't work.
Yeah, so, like, she's actually not incorrect here, because, like, when you run into, like, a 4-man or even, like, a 3-man with a not, you know, brainless rando, you're, like, this stuff doesn't work, right? Like, this stuff doesn't work. Like, it really doesn't. Like, essentially, this is, like, she's right in the sense that camping and tunneling really mostly work as a pub stomping form of gameplay, which, you know, like she said, most people do from just, like, comfort or, like, wanting the dub really badly. But, like, good teams don't fall to this. They really don't. So you're just kind of taking advantage that you're pub stomping. You're taking advantage of the fact that people are in pubs, probably not on comms, and yeah, like, a good team will beat you if you do these things. So you're just kind of taking advantage of pubs. And when you run into players that are coordinated or know how to play the game well, just like really good randoms, you're gonna get dunked on for that. And you are missing a gap in your skill if all you do is camp and tunnel. Not to say that camping and tunneling intrinsically is like not a good skill is, you know, also incorrect, because, like, obviously, you know, against really, really good teams, often at some point you'll have to back-to-back hook somebody to win, or proxy somebody out of the game to win. Especially near, like, you know, the end of the match. So, you know, why would I want to be better at this game? So you can get the results that you want? Yeah.
It's just kind of scummy, because there are two separate sides to this game, and I don't think either side should ruin it for one another. It's a game, meant for fun. And I'd understand if the killer was going to go after somebody.
Some people find winning fun, and that's it. And it's really weird. It's something I don't relate to. I'm more with you in the fact that I'm more with Lily in the fact that I don't think winning is intrinsically fun. Right? Like, I don't feel like winning is intrinsically fun. I feel like I have to, like, do something with my brain to feel like my input caused the victory. But it's not scummy, I guess. It's just cringy, I guess. What is a good word for that? It's just kind of like head empty, me win. It's just uninteractive. It's uninteractive, and it's very yucky. But, like, I don't think they're bad people. I just think that some people, for some reason, just W is the thing that does it for them, even if they didn't really input much to make that happen in the first place. The strats, you get them anyway, not with everybody, Potato. That's the conversation we just had, which is that, like, it works on pubs, like random pubs, but it doesn't work on coordinated groups or just good solos. It doesn't work on everybody. That's the point. It's like flipping a coin, predicting heads, and then feeling good about yourself. Literally. Like, it's just like, you didn't really input much there, so it's not satisfying for me. But for some people, that it is for them, just because they won, and that's it, and that's the end of the story. It's interesting. It's something I don't relate to, but that's how they are. I feel like I'm always losing my openings and never having fun in a party game. Yeah, the game. There's a lot to be said too about, like, the infrastructure of the game not really being well supportive for, like, a more intense experience. Like I said in my in one of my other React videos that I released earlier this week, talk to comp players. They say the game's a circus. they even say comp is a circus. So it's like, even at the highest level, theoretically, like, they're like that. It's still wonky, right?
Got unhooked because they were body blocking, or even alternatively somebody that was looping around the hook. That's not really them camping, or even at endgame, but as you can see here, this guy was just hanging out just because. Number 2, M1, no anti-loop, and no mobility killers are weak. I've heard this argument so many times, and yes, it has some truth, but this is when you have to adapt to playing the killer and finding perks that synergize with their power and specifically your gameplay.
Is she saying M1 killers aren't weak? And you should just run better perks and change your gameplay style? Is that what she's saying?
Perks are meant to enhance your gameplay, not necessarily make or break it. And I've noticed a lot of killers who do run multiple gen slows are often terrible at chase, because they use slowdowns to stall and hope for the best to kind of make up for their skill.
Yep, that is true.
Personally, for my M1 killers, I'll run Stabiffle, also known as Save the Best for Last.
Yeah.
And if I decide to run slows, I never run multiple slows aside from Jolt and Pain Res. Jolt for controlling gens nearby when
That's almost my exact build. I do Surveillance Agi Pain Res Jolt. But on Wraith specifically is who she plays. I do run Stabiffle instead of Agi. So that's almost the exact build I run, which is funny.
And Pain Res for those that are further progressed. I personally don't like kicking gens either, so this incentivizes me to have good chases, meaning if I can move quicker, I can generate more pressure naturally. I also find certain perks work better on killers like I'm All Ears for Pyramid Head or Huntress, and Dissolution on Clown or Spirit. Number 3.
Yeah, but like that was like this is why I find her takes so interesting, because exactly that, right? Like she opens that with M1 killers aren't weak, or there's some truth to that, but really it's just you. And then she goes and says something really smart afterwards. Like, this is why I find her to be such an interesting content creator. Because, like, the take at the open was, M1 killers aren't as weak as you think. And I'm like, no, they definitely are. But then, like, the reasoning she used to describe it makes sense, but it doesn't prove your point. Right? Like, yeah, you should probably run perks that are more appropriate for an M1 killer because, you know, like we talk about with, like Knight. Like, Knight has a long time to down, so running like perks that are all based on getting the down don't make sense, right? You should run stuff like Deadlock, like Corrupt, like Kick perks, because your time to down's long. Like, that makes sense, but that doesn't mean that M1 killers are not as weak as people make them out to be. That these arguments aren't tied together, right? Like, it feels like we were doing math and then she brought up the alphabet. Like it's like wait, okay. What does 1 plus 1 mean? And then she said A. And I'm like, A? What? What do you mean? Like, what? This came out of nowhere, right? Like this doesn't prove her point. It's true, but it doesn't in any way say that, like, M1 killers are, like, stronger than people think they are. They're definitely the weakest. Like, your experience with, like, a Blight versus, like, a Clown, it's going to be extremely different. Extremely different. Your experience with, like, she brought up Pyramid Head and, like, Myers is going to be drastically different. And one is definitely way, way, way stronger than the other. Way, way stronger.
Don't accept criticism well. It's okay to not be great at everything you do in DBD. Personally, It took me around 2,000 hours to even be decent at Survivor on my own, and around 500 or so on Killer. Dead by Daylight isn't the type of game that you boot up, play a few games, then automatically become good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of perks, maps, RNG, powers, items, add-ons, and just so much more that occurs naturally in gameplay. It's not something that you learn in a week or even a month, and people don't accept that.
That's true.
I've noticed people would much rather blame everything.
One of the most painful things that I see is, and this is a personal thing that, you know, obviously I'll omit names here. There are so many killer mains that I watch that hurt me so badly. Because they, like, I used to watch so many killer mains when I first got into this game because I wanted to learn how to get better at the video game. And now I've noticed about half of, like, the 8K hour Andes that stream that I watch play killer kind of just want to coast on the skill that they have now and never continue to improve. For me, I always want to stay hungry. I want to see the next horizon. I want to learn a new character. I want to learn a new strategy. Like, I want to learn new things and always be improving my, like, you know, sharpening my sword, like always improving my craft. There's so many, like, big killer main streamers that just, like, they just want to coast on the like 8K hours or so they have and just kind of, like, want that to win all their games for them. And when they lose because they stopped learning and they started stalling instead, they get really, really mad and frustrated. It really lowers the vibe of the stream because they're just upset and cranky, when in reality it's their fault because they're the ones that stopped learning. They stopped being a student of the game. They just wanted to, they said, okay, well, I'm an 8K hour guy. I know everything about the game. There's nothing left. I'm just good now. Not true. I mean, I could start doing that, right? I have 4K hours in the game. I could be like, oh, well, 4K hours is more hours than I put into any game. Besides, like, MMOs, but that's, like, a different story. Like, I could just call it. I have a lot of hours, right? But I'm nowhere near as good as the better killers in this game. Nowhere near as good as the better killers in this game. I still have so much to learn. Learning Oni, yeah, like there's specific characters that I'm really, really bad at, like Oni, that I'm just no clue how to, not no clue, but like I'm much weaker on them as versus another killer that I would play. There's always more stuff for me to learn. And it's painful to see these like big killer mainstreamers just kind of like wanting to coast on what they know so far and then getting mad when it doesn't work out their way. Don't see gameplays anymore because only opinions and commentary videos because gameplay is boring. Everybody knows how the game plays at this point. The game's been out for like, came out in 2016, right? Like this game's been out a long time. The game's been out a really, really long time. It's almost going on 7 years. Like this game's old. Game's old, right? Like what's the gameplay? Oh my god, another Myers video, right? Like, like that you've never seen a Myers match before, like. How is that new? Survivor has been the same role it has been since 2016. It's just new perks. The role is the same. What new things are you going to see on Survivor? You know? It's just like, that's why gameplay videos fall off, because when the game's new, it's like, wow, I want to see how this game actually works, how this game is actually played. But like, when the game's been out for a long time, most people know how the game is played. And the only people that are watching gameplay videos are people that are brand new to the video game. Like, why would I, for example, why would I go watch a gameplay video of somebody just playing a random Huntress match? When I can do most of the things that Huntress can do, if not better, depending on what skill level they're at, and just fire up my game and do it myself, you know? Like, why would I watch that? When you're watching like a Twitch streamer doing it, you're watching them play because it's like you're hanging out with your buddies, you're hanging out with the streamer themselves. It's like a collective group thing, and it's like it's a different environment. If I'm just sitting there on a YouTube video just watching somebody throw hatchets that I could throw myself and possibly better, like, what is the entertainment value there? What is the entertainment value? Like, what am I getting out of that? That's why videos like this, like the kind I make, the kind that Lily's making, it's like way more intriguing because they provoke thoughts and discussion, whereas I'm just watching the 12 millionth match of DBD that I've either played myself or seen. You know, it's just not intriguing. There's not enough substance for that. Now you'll see new gameplay videos when like a new killer comes out, right? But that's because the content is new. Once the content is old, like you're gonna see those fall off too. Just like Knight videos have fallen off because when Knight was new, everybody's like, "How's this character play?" Now that Knight is kind of just another guy on the roster, you don't see those gameplay videos much. There's gotta be more substance to it.
Except for themselves. And while this actually applies to both sides, it's more relevant on killer because they decide the flow and dictate the match itself. For example, a lot of people think that kicking pallets is a waste of time, but sometimes a loop could be rendered useless if you just
I'm making a video on this
instead of trying to play around.
By the time this video comes out, I've made a video telling you what pallets you should leave and what pallets you should kick. He's right here.
I legitimately watched somebody stream where they tried to chase around a pallet when the survivor was facing an edge wall for almost a minute. If they would have just kicked the pallet, the survivor's against the edge wall. They'd have nowhere to go, and they could have ended the chase then and there. But instead, they got frustrated at the survivor, thinking it was their fault, but it was actually theirs. There's plenty of other instances, but that's just one. Number 4, killers get greedy. Since 6.1, a lot of people, including myself obviously, would say that killer is easier than before. Not that you don't have to do anything and win, but you can play in the cheapest way possible, and there's nothing that a survivor can really do to win against it. If I wanted to push for a 4,
I don't think it's like the cheapest way possible. I think the base kit for killers finally brought to where it should be. And that does make things easier across the board. It just does, just intrinsically. But I think killer's in the right spot. I think killer as a base kit role across the board is in a good spot. It's just that there's a lack of anti-tunnel Basically, there's a lack of pushback on the survivor side, right? There's a lot of perk problems, but there's also a lack of anti-tunnel intrinsically. So there's not as much you can do as Survivor 3.6.1 to combat like camping, tunneling, and that sort of thing. So
game by not caring, I could probably do it in about 90% of my matches. But I've noticed a lot of killer players are ultra greedy in their matches, where even if they have a good amount of hooks or even a 2 or 3k, they have to have the 4k. Sort of like a 4k or I'm not okay mentality, which is
4k
bizarre.
or I'm not okay. 4k or I'm not okay. That's funny. That's a good one. I'm gonna use that. 4k or I'm not okay. Yeah.
I understand DBD is an ASIM, and so thinking that I'm always going to have a 4K or that I always deserve a 4K is something that I just can't get past. It's basically an admission that you think that there's nobody that could be better than you. And although it started as a joke, I've noticed a trend of people that have this sort of killer power role fantasy.
I mean, that's
always
been a thing, yeah.
Completely uncontested, full sweep, no resistance type of thing, no matter what, or else it just doesn't matter to them.
I feel like I feel like that was a lot of generalization, I guess. You know, I feel like that was a lot of generalization. Like, yeah, there's definitely killers who are like that, right? Like they all win, all or nothing. They want the all win or they lost. Like, there's definitely people like that, but like, I don't think every killer is. You know, I don't think it's everybody. I don't think it's like intrinsic to like the role, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like. See, that's why once again why I love watching Lily's videos, because there's like so much like not truth and truth at the same time. Like, there's no problem with people going for the 4K. I don't think there's a problem to want to go for the 4K. There's no like inherent issue with that. But like, it is, you know, it is kind of like, you know, it's just, I literally can't explain. It's just like yes and no at the same time. It's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with going for the 4K. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's like the ultimate win condition, right? But she's also right that like some players want it a little too badly, you know. Don't think she's saying. Okay, what do you think? A lot of no, but kind of. Yeah, that's kind of like how I see most of her takes. It's like no, but kind of. Yeah, like there's truth in what you're saying, but or it's being used for like, yeah, it's just interesting. It's just very, very interesting. Slugged waiting for the 4K. Yeah, it is boring. Match is worthless if they don't have 4K? Yeah, but like, why is that no to what I said? Because I covered that. I think I literally said that. Did I miss something? Because I said that, yeah, it's both. That some people are definitely like that, and it is very, very frustrating. I think those people shouldn't have that mentality. But also, there's nothing wrong with going for a 4K. It's weird when a killer bleeds somebody out done for the 4th. Yeah, if you have no info on where somebody is, it's just a waste of time, right? If you have no info on where everybody is, it is just a waste of time to go after them. Like, you could, like, 3K is a victory. 3K just is a victory. It just is. It's not total victory, but it is a victory. Like, you should be comfortable with getting a 3K. You really should. So, yeah. Like, I also wish that killers were more, like, you know, accepting of a 3K. Because, like, that is a victory. But I don't think there's anything wrong with going for a 4K, because that is, like, the holy grail, right? That's, like, the total win. I just think that, like, you know, like we're saying, it's, like, the all-or-nothing mentality is kind of, like, detrimental. Like, you don't have to. You're kind of, you know, there's this mentality out here that you have to, which is... Yeah.
5. Survivors have perks to counter a lot. This one is kind of intertwined with the first, but perks that survivors have to counter some of the more unfun killer plays can't always apply, which makes it a little frustrating. Because of how oppressive killer can be, you can't really outskill the oppressiveness. You can just kind of hope it works, and I'll explain what I mean. I'll release an infographic on Twitter recently that gives us an idea of what I'm talking about. But the infographic made me feel a little weird because of the shoehorning into a build when there are so many other perks and opportunities. But a lot of survivors are just at the mercy of a killer not playing a certain way, which I don't really like. And even using some of those perks, I've still been straight up camped and tunneled with these. I just think the focus should be more advocating for killers to get better.
Yeah, you do have to kind of like stuff your build. for Survivor, you kind of have to predetermine how your match is going to go as Survivor before you get in there, which is always something I've disliked about the role. Is like Killer can obviously camp, tunnel, throw somebody in the basement. They have a lot of like in-game strats they can do to switch on the dime if the game gets sweaty really quickly. Right. With Survivor, there's not really a way to like turn on the sweat mid-match. There are little things you can do, like pre-dropping, shift Wing more often. But like one person doing that alone isn't going to save a match. It's just going to prolong things slightly. You really do have to kind of like premeditatedly bring some of the sweaty stuff if you want to play sweaty. And if you don't, you really do have a hard time fighting back as the Survivor role if you didn't bring the right stuff to sweat. Because there really isn't a lot of mechanisms in-game to switch on a dime. Which is... it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. It's one of the reasons I enjoy the role less. Because I can't counterattack. I can't switch my playstyle. There's like, it feels powerless a lot, which, you know, it is the Survivor role, so it shouldn't be able to just like, you know, go in and drop kick the killer, right? It should be do a flying drop kick and get in and just completely blast the killer. But the fact that I feel like I can do literally nothing is like if the killer brings quad slowdown and I'm running like Windows, Residual Manifest, Resilience, Dead Hard. Like that's an okay build. Like I got info for chase, I got resilience for like window vaults and slight gen speed. Dead Hard obviously is like my exhaustion perk. But like Residual Manifest, like a lot of these perks have no prevalence on the match or very little impact. And like if I get somebody who's bringing 4 slowdown, like my build is not pulling enough weight. It's really not. Like like my build is not going to pull enough weight for the match to get those gens done. It's just not. So if the killer brings 4 slowdown, we're just kind of at the mercy of their build, you know? There's no playstyle switches I can really make to like play in a way that'll buy that time, you know? So it's just, I don't know.
People actually play games out. I don't think I made that as clear on Twitter, which I'm aware of, but Otts and I are friendly peers to one another as content creators, even if we do have different trains of thoughts. Number 6, the Survivor HUD is too OP. I've been seeing a lot of people reference that the Survivor HUD is too OP already, but not even for solo queue survivors, for Swift too.
It doesn't do anything.
Here as to how it's OP
that's an exaggeration. It does plenty. It's very helpful, and I like it a lot, but it's... My matches are still pain. My matches are still pain. This is... I'll take... It's one of those things I'll take it, and it is an improvement, but it did not make nearly as big of a splash as people said it was going to. For every match you have like, oh wow, people are on gens, you're also looking around going, why is that person not on a gen? Why is that person not going for the save? Why is that person not making the right decision? Like, it doesn't play the game for you. It really doesn't. Because some people, like, it gives you more info, but like some people don't know what to do with that info. They really don't. Like, if I see that nobody's on a gen, right? My info, that info to me as somebody who's played this game for a while says I should probably get on a gen because we are applying 0 pressure right now. Like we're essentially applying 0 pressure to the map for the match. And other people will see nobody on a gen on the left side and just go, oh, okay, I hope somebody gets on the gen soon. Like and then they'll just keep doing their thing. Like info does not always translate to plays, unfortunately. So it's like, yeah, also that, Atoto. The challenges definitely affect that, too. But, like, info does not always translate to good plays, or plays at all, for that matter. So, it's definitely over-exaggerated how much this affected things.
It just tells you very general information. Not even the exact totem that's being cleansed, or the gen that's being worked on, just straight general knowledge. This makes it so that solo queue players aren't completely left in the dark and have a pressure to play more as a team, which I'm super happy to see. We haven't even seen stats come out on whether or not this has increased the escape rate, which I'm sure is still pretty much the same considering how strong Killer is at the moment. Number 7, Swift is scary. This is a smaller point, but I feel like there's far too much fear-mongering when it comes to Swift and DBD, and it's kinda silly at this point. Swift is usually just a group of friends goofing off who don't want to play alone. Hell, I'm one of those kinds of people. I'm not here calling my position every 10 minutes or trying to like destroy the killer. It's usually dumb stuff like this.
Australia, right?
In Australia.
She was telling me how her mom, at her like place of employment, because she works in an office, and they have like this spider that they call Charlie, and he's just like there.
Yeah.
That was such good timing. Huh? What? I've been accused of Swift just because of pure coordination between randoms and I in my matches, but that's the one true scary part. Coordinated players who aren't always in a Swift. After a certain amount of time, you'll be confident in your matches as a survivor. So yeah, you'll take a protection hit, you'll red light a killer, and you'll go for more risky plays. That just happens. Scott John made a really good video about this, which I'll link down below in the description, but I won't keep going on and on about it. He does a really great job of explaining. Number 8, gens go too quick.
I mean, like, I've said it till I'm blue in the face. You're not facing Swifts all the time. If you think you are, you're wrong, and it is kind of just an annoying scapegoat at this point. Is Swift still the strongest role in the game? Of course it is. But that's not why you're losing all the time.
One thing that always freaks killers out is when they see 1 to 2 gens pop off early on, which is natural because you think to yourself, oh shoot, they're really hammering gens. But
which they are.
That's not always the case.
Yeah.
Survivors spawn near gens or spawn together at gens, which I think is bad RNG and shouldn't happen, but it does.
Yeah.
Killers are simply the weakest at the start, but it's really mid to end game that is the most important in my opinion. Meanwhile, survivors are the strongest at the start of a match.
I mean, like, this isn't them not, this isn't gens not going quick. Like, that's still them doing the gens quickly, right? Like, just because you explained why it happens does not disprove that it's not happening. Right? Like, I do, and they're always on comm. Sure, bud. Sure, bud. Sure, Jen.
Games are designed to go. However, your goal at the start of a match should be to strip survivors of the resources and make them weaker as the match progresses. Number 9.
Yeah, that just explains why gens go fast and not that disproving that gens don't go fast. Like that's like, yes, that is why gens go fast, but that isn't like a no, gens are not going fast. That's definitely okay.
Killers overcommit or undercommit to chases. Chases are a huge thrill for survivors like me, but because I have thousands of hours, my experience combined with a good setup can let me loot for however long the killer decides to chase me at times.
Yeah, which is really fun.
This could be for 2 to 3 or even 5 gens.
Today.
I primarily play solo queue, so I can't always say the same for my teammates, but I have had some teammates
There's
out
nothing
there.
more painful. I've experienced new pain in this game, and I've realized this over the past like couple months playing Survivor. There's nothing worse feeling in this game when you loop the killer for like 40, 50 seconds, and then the killer just downs the next guy in like 10. There's no worse feeling in this video game than that. Like, for some reason, it brings me so much pain. I can't quite explain why. It's like I get punched in the gut. It's like such a sinking feeling of like, you put all that effort, you juice the killer, you're ready to make a montage because you did such a good job, and then the next guy just goes down in 2 seconds. And you're just like like, oh, okay. Oh, all right. Oh, okay. All right. And I think a lot of that, like, to kind of bring up what she said earlier in the video on the killer side, is like, I feel like this game is kind of like more focused versus like doing the gens or defending the gens as much as possible, right? Like, the gen focus is the thing that wins a lot of matches because it's the easiest thing to cheese. You can just bring Overbrine Eruption and win a lot of your matches. You can just bring Hyperfocus, Stakeout, Prove in a toolbox and win most of your matches. You really don't need to be good at chase to win games anymore. So many people are just so freaking dumb and clueless when it comes to chase nowadays, because you don't have to learn it to be good anymore. But like, as soon as the meta gets adjusted, you're gonna be up a creek without a paddle. You really will be. So I really hope that happens, so these people get punished. I really do. I really do. I'm gonna go down in 2 seconds just because I said. Why? Don't do that. Don't. You already hate this game enough. Don't make me miserable too.
That are just as strong at looping the killer. But realistically, far too many killers overcommit to their chases, costing them their gens, and they're not wasting enough resources as well. This ties into what I previously said, of course, but I can typically greed loops because I know what I can get away with versus what I can't get away with. A lot of survivors won't have this knowledge, so they will pre-drop and they will waste pallets instantly. Chasing these types of survivors early on, even if it doesn't result in a down, can be beneficial because you strip the survivors of the resources and the next survivor you chase can't use them, and then you'll have a much easier time as a result.
Okay, eventually, even if I throw,
survivor out of
literally.
positioning can be really good too. On the flip side, you can also undercommit to chases and prematurely leave them without injuring, downing, and even wasting any of their resources, which is also a big no. But as time goes on, you find a good balance of these things. Number 10.
Yeah.
If killers can't stack gen perks, neither should survivors. This one will also be short and to the point, but a lot of killers will complain about
I just want the gen meta to go away. I just want the gen meta to go away. Stop this prove brand new part BS and stop the overbrand eruption BS. Stop it. Like these are the things that take the least amount of skill in the game to do, which is to hold M1 or kick a gen. Why are these the most rewarded plays in the game? Because of the perks. These are literally the most skill-less things you can do in the game because they're deduced to a single button. But they are the most rewarded because of the way the meta is right now. I don't think the easiest thing to do in the game should be the most rewarded on either side, and I think it's just sad.
Being able to do gens really quickly, but realistically, these are in very niche scenarios and can't even be applied to most of their matches.
Incorrect. I 1000% disagree with that. Like, most of the matches that I find frustrating or difficult come down to multiple brand new parts, multiple proofs, multiple hyper-focus stakeouts. Like, most matches that I have that actually are frustrating are because of that. So, no, it's not niche. This is the meta.
And again, tying with my previous point, a lot of killers will overcommit to a chase and not even realize that they've been chasing for that long. For example,
my big thing this week has been like short chases, right? Because like obviously like I make the claim that like your chases should be like 20, 25 seconds, 30, something like that. You know, on average, keyword on average, you will have bad chases just because of setups and stuff like that. But on average, your chases should be short. They just should be if you're playing well. I still have gens fly. I still have gens fly all the time. And my chases are very, very quick and efficient. But this is like what I was saying is like at the beginning of the video when she's like, well, I played up to Eerie, and I have 500 hours of killers, so I know everything about killer now. It's like, that's... No, I have plenty of chases. I have matches where I consistently have like really short chases all match, and I'll still have gens go fast. It's not always like, oh, bad chase, that's why. It's like, no, I have plenty of good chase matches that I still lose because they just brought the right perks. So, yeah.
Complaining in my YouTube comments. There is no reason in the world why you should be chasing a survivor for more than an actual minute. I mean, most of my chases end within 30 to 45 seconds.
What did I just say? Literally, what did I just say? She's right, you know. She's right. Look. Look. See? Look. I just said that. I lowered it to 20 to 30, right? That was my bracket. 30 to 40 ain't bad. 30 to 40 ain't nothing to sneeze at, right? That's good, too. She's right, you know. She's right. If your chases aren't going quick, you suck at the game. That's not a bad thing. You just suck right now. You can always learn. You can always get better. But to, yeah. It doesn't mean yeah, you're right. It's like, she's right, but that doesn't mean gens don't fly, yeah. But, I just think it's funny because, like, even she, who's, you know, openly said she's very survivor biased, is like, homie, your chases need to be short. And if your chases aren't short, they need to be. They even need to be. Yep. True.
Anyways, I know a lot of people freaked out when hyperfocus and stakeout sparked up some conversation.
I'm gonna be real, and this is gonna be another thing that gets me in trouble, I guess. It's like, that's the thing I see our killers suck at the most. They're just bad at chase. They're just terrible. And that's why it's been frustrating with, like, the Overbrine meta, because you don't need to be good at chasing more, you just kick gens. But, like, a lot of killers suck at chasing. Really suck at chasing. They're really freaking bad. Their chases last like she pointed out in the comment in her video. That guy was like, I have to chase a survivor for 2 minutes. Homie, you should never be chasing a survivor for 2 minutes. How are you chasing a survivor for 2 minutes? Like, straight up. How are you chasing a survivor for 2 minutes? How bad are you that you're chasing a survivor for 2 minutes? I played chases on Batum, on the game, on old Eerie of Crows that didn't last 2 minutes. what are you doing wrong that your chases are lasting 2 minutes? And like I said, it's okay to be bad at chase. Like, but don't say it's the game's fault. If you're still learning how to chase better, that's totally fine. Which is why I've released a lot of videos this week. Well, not yet. That's coming tomorrow for you guys because recording day is Tuesday. Yo, Panic, thank you so much. I appreciate those 30 bits, Fred. How are you? Good to see you. But yeah, like I'm saying, is like, it's okay to be bad at chase. I'm releasing videos this week to try to help you be better at chase. But like, don't blame it on the game, except that maybe I'm not the best at chase yet, and that's okay. But that you'll find that your gens don't fly as fast if your chases are very, very quick, and it does help a lot. So maybe have some humility and go, maybe I'm not. Maybe my chases are like literally keep a counter in your head. Keep a counter in your head. That's what I did on Monday, because that's when this conversation first came up. Was when we were streaming. I remember that Legion match on Orman. I started counting my chases. 4 out of 5 of my chases were like 20 to 30 seconds. 40 to 30 seconds.
Midnight is another way is saying high noon.
No, it's the opposite.
Put your hands up.
Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. I'm just making content here. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Thank you for the bits, friend. But don't hurt me. I'm just making content here. But yeah, like, I don't know. People just need to have some humility and admit that maybe they're not the best at chase yet. And like I said during that Orman video, I was that Orman match that we had on Monday. I was literally like, I was counting in my head, and most of them fell within 20 to 30 seconds. There was one that was really long. One of them was like 50 seconds. And that's because the Hattie was running the tile very strangely. Very, very strangely. It was just odd. So.
Hi.
Hello. How are you? Thank you for the 1 bit. Yeah, it was really odd, and it caught me off guard. So, like, I had trouble tracking her because her pathing was strange. So I had a 50 second chase. 50 minutes chase, good luck. 15-second chase. But, like, by and large, on average, your chases should be the 4 out of the 5, which is like 20 to 30 seconds. No, then blame everything. You see me do that all the time. I'll be chasing someone, and I'll be like, good dodge, or like, you should have thrown that pallet, or good job throwing that pallet, good job taking the vault, good job leaving the tile. You know, like I compliment people that make good plays, right? I feel like you're right. Like, there's a part of that, you know, she was talking about earlier, like the 4K or nothing crowd. A lot of them are also like survivors can do no well. Like, you know, there are people that, like, you know, you can do no wrong. There's also the opposite of that. There are people that like survivors can do no right either. And that's a video that it also came out this week. By the time that this video will hit the YouTube, is that I made a video talking about how, like, that mentality is really toxic, because learning the survivor playbook is so important to being a good killer. Learning the survivor playbook is so important to being a good killer. And if you refuse to learn the survivor playbook, you're going to suck. You're going to suck. You're going to suck. Contrary to spawn? No, it's manual. And I was in the middle of a sentence. Give me a second.
I don't think so.
Oh, apparently you're not allowed to go to sleep. Sorry. Yeah, so, like, you got to learn and pay attention to the survivor playbook and not attribute everything the survivor does that beats you to just, like, BS. And that's, like, that comes with, like, either, like I said like I said in that video that will be out by now. Like I said, is like, either you watch a lot of Survivor, you play Survivor, or you just watch a killer who's, like, you know, more open to complimenting survivors and pointing out the reasons they play the way they do. Because, like, you have to be able, just like with any, like, sport or, you know, combat in real life, counterattacking is just as important as attacking. If you don't know how to intercept and counterattack, you're not going to do as well. And if you only watch streamers that just, like, go, oh, that survivor's so stupid, I hate the way they did that, that's so dumb, and they never explain why they're doing those things, or attribute anything they do as a good play, you're always going to be behind this killer. You're always going to suck. You're going to hit a very, very hard ceiling where you never improve because you're only willing to cry and bitch about survivors and never understand the things they do. You have to walk in their shoes. You really do.
On Twitter, but the setup for it requiring you to be in the killer's terror radius for a full minute without being chased, not being interrupted by any means, and hitting most, if not all, skill checks is a lot to pull off consistently, and there's an entire build that's dedicated to it, typically. So this means that more than likely you won't have to worry about being hit with DS, off the record, reassurance if you want to get those people out of your game ASAP. Long story short, there's just nothing that survivors have in comparison outside of extremely niche gameplay that can progress gens as fast as killers can regress.
Well, like I said, once again, not niche gameplay, but like that is what's good with Survivor now is the gen cheese. DS nerfed into the ground. Dead Hard's still good. Like the exhaustion meta is still there, but like yeah, like the anti-tunnel meta is just gone for the most part. Off the record and DS are fairly weak perks, so yeah.
Them. And here you can see this nemesis just does not stop chasing my friend Zero, and he's let all 5 gens get done, and Zero gets out, and then he DCs. But look at his build. He was hoping that he could chase for long enough and have the slows do the work. Number 11. Killers have massive egos. A lot of killers really do.
This is a both sides thing, but yeah. People get egos in this game about the tiniest stuff. And like I was saying earlier, like with learning the Survivor playbook, you have to have you gotta let your ego down. You gotta admit that sometimes the Survivor outplayed you. Or even not even that, but just like admit that the setup was strong or something like that. Admit fault. Admit fault. Admit where you went wrong. Because if you were really the most perfect best killer in the world, the match wouldn't have went the way that it did. Right? So something went wrong somewhere, even if it was minor. Right? Something went wrong somewhere, even if it was minor. I had a clown game on Handfield recently that was very frustrating because I only got a 2K, and I tried really hard that match. So did the survivors, and I was upset that I only got a 2K. But the reason I only got a 2K is because I refused to hold a 3-gen. That was something that it's just not something I enjoy doing. I don't enjoy kicking gens. I don't enjoy keeping track of gens and stuff like that. I would rather just go for more chases. But like I made the conscious decision on Handfield of all maps to not hold a 3-gen. That's my fault. Right? If I really, 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 really wanted to win that match, I would have said no to my ego and held a 3-gen. But I decided to with forego holding a 3-gen, and I lost. You have to admit stuff like that if you want to improve. You can't just like let your ego get in the way all the time because you're not going to improve. And that, that's the thing on the Survivor side too. You can't blame everything on triple slowdown killers. Like you can did I go down at that? Did I path that tile really bad and go down way too early? Did I? Something I see a lot. Something I see a lot is like sending the wrong people to do certain tasks. Why is the deathic person going to save on hook? Why are they doing that? Just little stuff like that. Little mistakes add up after a while. So you need to have your ego out of the way and admit when mistakes are happening. You just do. Learn to drop chase. Like you overcommitting. Like there's always. This might be its own video. It's like there's like a little ratio I do in my head of like value I'm getting out of a chase. So like the question is like obviously we've been talking about lately. She said 30-40 seconds. I said 20 to 30 second chases. If you're wanting to have those really, really short chases, what happens when you don't have those 30 seconds? Like what happens when those chases don't happen? Because it's on average. It's not all the time that the chases are that short. What happens when you don't have those quick chases? I have a ratio in my head I keep. How many pallets have I kicked? If I have kicked like 2 to 3 pallets, that's good. I've created a dead zone in a certain area, right? That's an area that if I chase somebody there later, they're gone. That is just as important as if I got the hooker down. Obviously not as good as it, but it's still very, very important. Same thing with like if I chase for 3 seconds and I only get the injury, right? That was a massive investment of time to only get an injury. But it would be an even worse investment of time to continue and get the down if I spent all that time and all I got was an injury. So there's like a ratio in my head of like, if I don't get the down, did I at least get 3-ish pallets? Did I at least get an injury? Right? But after that, like it's the same as like when those 30 seconds hit, like those 30 or 40 seconds in her case, like her version of this, if 30 or 40 seconds hit and I don't have 3 pallets, if I don't have the down, I'm looking for those 3 pallets or I'm looking for that injure. And even worse, if I don't have either of those, I need to leave. I need to just go find something else to do. I need to go chase somebody else. Like I really do. It sucks. It is bad. A lot of it is caused by ego. But like if you don't have something, essentially you don't have something to speak for, if you don't have something worthwhile that you gained after that time investment, you need to go spend that time somewhere else. You just do. So yeah, I agree with that. Good night, Panic. Appreciate you.
I've noticed a lot of killers get mad when they suspect Swift, get teabagged, get stunned with head-on, get flashlight saved, get looped, and more. It makes a lot of people flustered, and as a result, I've seen a lot of people make more mistakes than they normally would. Certain things like getting head-on or flashlight saved aren't making you lose your game.
They're not.
It's you getting outplayed from time to time, and that is okay.
I would argue that flashlight saves and head-on stuns are actually, like, in your benefit, because that is one person consistently not contributing to gens. Right? That is one person on the map that's just, like, consistently not doing the objective. Which, as long as you, like, do what this Nemesis is doing, is, like, slugging and then checking around, like, that's in your benefit. Because that's two people on the team that are consistently not doing the objective. Which is, like, slows down the objective an intense amount. Never hold down 3 gems. Fun. Yeah, like, you know, it's more fun. I agree that chasing is more fun than holding down a 3 gen. But my point being that, like, if I really, really wanted to win that clown match I was in, I should have. Right? I am admitting fault where I lost because of that, you know? Yeah, it's okay to get frustrated at it, but don't blame it. Yeah, exactly. It's okay to get frustrated at, like, flashlights and head-ons because you're just like, dude, whatever. Like, I'm just trying to, like, play the game and you're trying to stop me from playing the game. You know, it can be frustrating. But, like, they're not losing you the video game. You're not losing because of those. That's definitely not what's happening.
Once you know about head-on in your match, you can be wary of it next time. You can look around, face a wall, or run Infectious or Franklin's if you're worried about flashlights. Even with things like survivors gesturing, nodding, or teabagging, the action does nothing to progress the game for them. It actually slows them down instead. I used to get upset at it when I first played Killer 2, but then I realized it was only making me play worse because of how upset I was letting it make me. Even as a survivor, I love nodding purely because it looks so goofy from the killer's POV.
How is nodding BMing? Like, how have we gotten to this point that nodding is a BM? Like, tunnel that on user is killing an ally? Yeah, that person was throwing to try and stun you. That person is literally playing the game inefficiently just to stun you. Like, yeah. That person's not doing gens or sweating. Like, they're just being a goober. Yeah, how does nodding... How are we at the point in the game that our egos are in our community is so fragile that, like, nodding has become, like, BM? How does, like when somebody downs you and gives you a nopers, like, yeah, like they're like, you sucked, you didn't do well. But how is nodding? How is nodding toxic now? Like, I don't understand.
Makes me laugh. Or sometimes I'll point to tell the killer to stop chasing me just because. It's not that serious.
The DC.
ボディチェックを受けた時にちょっと借りてきたんです。ボディチェックを受けた時にちょっと借りてきたんです。
Anime.
I got you, Miss Clara.
Anime. Yeah, thanks for the lurk, Max. I appreciate it. Yeah, once again, a lot of great points, a lot of bad points too, which is why her content is so interesting to me. I was very, very happy and proud to hear her say, your chaser should be 30 to 40 seconds. I feel heard. I feel heard. Because they should. And if they're not, you suck. They should. And if they're not, you're behind. You're not putting out enough pressure. You're really not. And that's a hard thing for people to accept. Realistically, your chases should be that short. They really should be. So, yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's hard, right, to be unbiased when you've soaked so much of your hours. Because I'm like her invert, right? Like, I've soaked thousands of hours into Killer, and I only have like 500 to 1,000 probably on Survivor, right? So I'm like her invert. I'm like her flip side, in terms of her player experience. So maybe there's something. Maybe if she watches my videos, she would see something that she'd be like, okay, well, that's an annoying Killer take, and you don't make sense, right? So it's kind of like it's almost like, you know, seeing like not a reflection, but like an inverted flip of like if I had started with Survivor and then like gotten to Killer later on. I feel like she's like I feel like I made this joke last video too that we reacted to. It's like we were this close to greatness. I feel like she almost gets it, right? Like, I really do. I feel like she almost gets it. I feel like she's not really at the point yet where she's like truly being unbiased, but she's getting there, and it's really cool to see. That, like, you know, while she holds on to a lot of her survivor bias, she is trying to offer things that I think are objectively good for the game, and she does hit so many good points. So many good points. And I think it's like, I think it's good. Right? I think it's really, really good, because, like, I feel like I feel like it's a growth that people don't have. You know? Like, sure, because she's, you know, still wrong about a lot of things that we already talked about, but, like, I feel like it's growth and awareness that, especially in this community, people don't have. People don't have, right? Like, it's a growth and awareness that I feel like people don't have or don't even seek. That's another thing, because of the ego conversation she has. Like, a lot of people don't even seek that. They don't even seek seeing the game from both sides. They don't even care. So, like, I don't know, I think it's really good. Just need to be aware of it? Yeah. Yeah, I just need to be aware of it. I feel like she almost gets it. And I personally appreciate seeing, like, her doing her best to try and give that down the middle take, even if it's not easy to her, if that makes sense. You know? Even if it's not easy to her, she's trying to give that down the middle take. So, I don't know. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot, I guess is what I'm saying. Because I wish more people thought that way. I wish more people were trying and make a more balanced take on the game and thoughts and ideas about the game. Because mostly people only just resign to whatever side they like more and just try to fight for them. It's really hard. It's really hard to fight for both sides. It's really difficult. It's really, really difficult. I've told you guys my own struggles with, like, trying to make content now that I can't just, like, whine about killer things, you know? It's difficult. It's difficult to try and see things that way. But that's why it's important, because nobody's doing it because it's difficult. It's easier to just complain and whine based on your better sides. I don't think she needs to make killer for a year to reach that place. I feel like she could either, like I said like I said earlier, flip side, she could watch a lot of killer mains. She could play more killer herself, not main it, but, like, maybe 50-50. Or just, you know, watch a killer main or watch a survivor main that's, like, very, very, like, killer favorited. And, like sees a lot of things from the killer's perspective. And you can get that experience without having to, like, main the side, right? You can get all that experience without having to main the other side. Just more exposure? Yeah. And those are, like, kind of the main ways that you get that exposure. It's like doing research, right? Like doing research. You'll never be able to, like, fully be in the moment of the thing that you're researching for the most part, but you can become very well informed about it through that exposure, through that research. So, yeah, I appreciate people like that, and I wish there were more people like that in our community that do attempt. And just because she's not there yet does not mean that the things she says and does is not valuable, which is what a lot of people, you know, like to assume. It's just because you're not there yet, your opinions aren't valuable. And that's definitely not true.